Okay, so I'm going to start the notching. I've already prepared with flakes ahead of time in the areas that I think the notches are going to go on both sides, as you can see. And I've already crunched in the beginnings of the notches. I thinned it up a lot so I wouldn't have too much trouble, but I'm still going to use files to illustrate how to use it. What are those files? Those are what they call needle files, and they have little diamonds on them, right? Diamond grit needle file set. Diamond grit needle file set. You can get them where? Harbor Freight for that particular package. You can get them online too. Just remember it's a needle file diamond grit or whatever it said. Yeah, diamond grit. You don't want those woodworking needle files that don't have the diamond grit. It won't work on the stone. All right. Yeah, I know it's pretty obvious, Captain Obvious, but some people, they might not look at the labeling, thinking that they're all the same because they got autism. Okay. What's this tool that I'm using? Someone tell him. Someone tell him. I like it. But on the last video, I cracked the notch on the Castroville. Yeah. So I'm using the same material again. Oops. Took off some from the barb by accident. I'm using the same material I used yesterday because it's prone to the radial cracks. Yeah. And I want to demonstrate how to work these difficult materials. And yeah, if it's prone to radial cracks, when you're doing this, you want to know how to not get radial cracks. It's also prone to these step fractures and crushings near the edge. How do you get rid of those, or how do you work around those, or what do you do? It's a perfect example. If you got a step fracture in there, you can file that out. So instead of being a dummy like I usually do and continue with the notching anyway, you can file that out because you don't want those little undetached step fractures in there. I don't know if you can see that, but that's an undetached step fracture. As I was, brushing downward or hitting with the Notch-o-matic, I created a step fracture. Now if I flip it over and hit it, that step fracture is going to interfere with the flake travel. And I might not get a flake the first time I try to hit that with the notcher. And I might, on the next try, pull back even harder and smack it even harder and then blow out that corner. So one of the uses for these files is to get rid of those step fractures. You just file them right off. Oops. Did it take it off? I think it's gone now. I think it is. Yeah. So if you got these step fractures forming, which everybody does, you can file them right off. And now I can punch it without worrying too much. The step fracture is going to interfere with the pop out. See? But as luck would have it, I have a mistake now. It's actually good luck in this case because the video is geared to how to overcome those by using the file. Now, wait till we get there. Just wait till we get to that point, and I'll show you what I mean. You got to be careful not to use too much force with this notching tool, or with any notching tool. All right, so I'm right up against that now. What do? Do I hit it and hope for the best? No. I use the file. I use the file to get right up next to that step fracture. I'll show you. That way, when I hit it, it's going to be right on the face of that step fracture, and it has a better chance of making a nice flake. So you can see, I don't know if you can see, but see there's a shelf. The bottom of the notch is here. The shelf is formed between the step fracture face and the bottom of this notch. You don't want that little gap in there, because when you hit, the force can't bridge that air gap. You've got to have no air between the notching tool and that face. So you just keep filing until there's no air in there. You might be able to see it better here. Let's see. There's an air gap or a shelf. Come on. See that? You don't want that right there. You want the bottom of the notch to be right up on that right up on the top there. That needs to come up to here. It might take a while to get there, and I might have to crunch some more flakes out of there, but I think it'll work just with the file. Why haven't I used file in the past? Because it's cheating. I prefer to do things with low tech and do it faster. See how much is delaying the process to go and file that until there's no space between where I'm hitting and that step fracture. It's getting to the point where I'm going to hit is the face of the step fracture. That's what you want. You want that bottom of that notch to be at the angle, at the correct angle, and to be intersecting with the other face. You want that platform to meet up with the other face, so there's nothing in between. See how now there's just that slope, and the slope terminates on the face of the other side. All right, that's what you want. Now, when I switch between this hand and that hand, it moves the position of the flaker, so I'm going to fumble with it sometimes because I can feel it move. You cannot have any movement from the original position. If I want it right there, I have to make sure it does not move when I switch. Okay. Voila. Now that would not have happened if I had just continued and the step fracture was still in there. You can see, perfect. The file makes the initial conditions very, very good so that the flake is much easier to predict. Okay? Okay. Yes, yes. Now I'm just gonna continue with the notching tool. I can hit the sides of that now. I can also continue with crunching it in, but I'm going to continue with continue the notching by blasting away more with the notching tool. And then eliminate the weak areas by scratching downward. You don't want the bottom of the notch to be too weak, because then it just crushes, it doesn't make a flake. It makes little bitty flakes, or what they call shatter. You don't want shatter, you want flake. All right. And now the face of that bottom of the notch is intersecting with the face on the opposite side. That's what you want, with no obstructions. And then you just stick it on there, maybe 1/64 of an inch up on the edge. Make sure it doesn't move when you switch hands like it just did. 1/64 to 1/32 of an inch, or less than a millimeter up on the edge. But that one actually moved. It was up a little higher. I switched my hands and it went down a little bit, but I said, nah, I'll do it anyway. But I ended up with another step fracture because it didn't have enough power behind it, because it slipped downward. So same procedure once I get to it. Now, I'm going to crunch this one in just because it's faster. This is the way I normally do it because it's faster. It's not as persnickety, and I'm already in the mode for pressure flaking, because I already, fixed up this side with some pressure. So that normally I just continue crunching it in and not worry about using files or whatever, or notching tools. I just do the same thing I did with the notching tool in the file with this, and blast through the step fracture. Using the same procedure as before, it's just not as neat as when I use the file. It's just a little more crude looking, but it still works. Okay, all is well with the first notch. It's the second notch that will get you. Matching up the second notch. Now you can do them both at the same time and proceed upward at the same rate instead of doing one first and then the other. But I want to show you the wrong way, so-called, because it'll help you with the obstacles that will present themselves. One of the first obstacles is now you're notching between two delicate areas. So as you're notching, you could blow away the stem or you can blow away the barb. Whereas if you were to advance both of them simultaneously, you can tell when you run into problems, right? I mean, you can tell. If you run into problems doing both simultaneously, you can stop both simultaneously and just say, that's good enough. But I have no choice but to try now to match this depth. Whereas if you were to do both at the same time and you encounter a problem on one, you can just stop both of them and say, that's good. Okay. Clear as mud, clear as mud. I get a comment sometimes that they can't follow what I'm saying. I change subjects a lot, I jump around a lot, but hopefully I will make an effort to stay on target. Okay, so far so good. Now, if I want it to be extra sure that I can do this notch depth, I would be using the file a lot more than I'm using. I'm using this to scratch, make it stronger. I can do the same thing with a file every time and make it stronger just by filing it like this every time. But I take the shortcut and use the front of the notching tool to scratch it to make it stronger. Come on. And remember, this has to make solid contact with the bottom of the notch. It can't be up off the workpiece. It has to make solid contact. A little bit of pressure is good also. And you don't need much to pop the flake out sufficiently to keep it going for the next one. Okay, so I hit it and nothing happened, so that's an indication that I can use the file to make it better, because nothing happened that first strike, which means that the platform is not exactly good. So now it's presumably better. Let's see if that works. I say presumably because it may just be a tough part in the stone. They didn't respond to the first hit. Voila. Okay. So yeah, scratching it with the front of the tool is a shortcut. It doesn't always give you the best edge for striking the next time, but it's fast, it's expedient, and it works a lot of times. I hesitate to say most of the time, because I don't know. It just seems, I guess, it seems like it works most of the time. Just to scratch off that delicate part so it doesn't crush. See, if you don't scratch off the delicate part and it crushes, it starts to stall. You don't want stalling. Stalling means it's hard to get more flakes to be removed because it's all either very crushed along the bottom of the notch or something is stopping the flakes from traveling. Now, if I want to ensure the next pop out is going to be perfect, even though it doesn't need it, I can file it anyway. Make it extra especially good. Right? A lot of flint knapping is about controlling the initial conditions. This is controlling the initial conditions. Make it good. And make sure that the tool has sharp corners. In this case, it still has relatively sharp corners, but you can make those perfect too. And make sure your hand grip is perfect so you're not getting any slippage when you pull this back. There's two avenues of slippage. One when you switch your hands and the other when you pull this back. There can be slippage. You don't want slippage because it won't strike where you are thinking it should be striking. And again, I don't need to do this, but filing it before each strike ensures that you have a good surface. Yeah. That you're going to make solid contact with the stone. And it's at the right angle. The correct angle. In geometry, if you say right angle, it's like, that's 90 degrees, man. Is it 90 degrees when you say right angle? No, it's not 90 degrees. I had to be careful with the terminology. Right? No? You didn't know that right angles are 90 degree angles? Now you know. Is that the same depth? Almost. So, just so I know that the next one is going to be successful, I will file the bottom. So there's no surprises. Was there a surprise? Yeah, it surprised me that it didn't pop out a nice flake. It's step fractured. Let's see. Is Flintknapping unpredictable? Oh, yes. Do you hope for the best with every flake? Yes. Do you always get what you hope for? No. But the depth is the same. Now, if I wanted a nice pop out, I would have to deepen that notch and get a nice pop out and risk breaking the whole thing. Shall we do it? Risk breaking the whole thing so we can get a nice pop out? Sure, why not? That is a good opportunity to try to make something perfect and risk breaking the whole thing. I have to think about this carefully though. I don't want to break this. I got a lot of stuff to make. Even if it has this crunchiness, someone will want it. If you want to eliminate it, it's going to take a lot of filing. It can be done. Let me see. Can I get in? Yeah. If I try to get in there with this and crunch away some of that, it's not going to work. So I'll have to file this a lot to get rid of those step fractures, just like we did in the beginning when there was a step fracture and there was a little flake that was interfering with the potential for the next flake. You got to file off those steps. Now I'm going to be going this way first. This angle has to be at the bottom of the notch about a 45, maybe a 50 or 60 degree would be fine as well. You know, relatively speaking, in relation to the center line, not in relation to the opposite face, but in relation to the center line, this is going to be like 45 degrees. Okay, it could even be, you know, it can be 45 degrees or it can be higher, a little bit higher, up to 60, I think. For you detail nerds, because you need to know the details. Let's see, I'm going to pop out a flake here. Yeah, it is prone to those step fractures. And now I have one on the other side. I popped it out. Now this, the bottom of that notch doesn't look too bad. Now, some of you guys have been notching forever and you were saying, no, don't keep going because it's just going to get worse. Yeah. We shall see. 24 minutes. I think I can finish this in 6 minutes. It's going to take a lot of filing. Just hold on. I have to get very close to the surface. You know, the bottom of that has to be up on the surface here, on the opposite side. It's almost there. There's still an air gap. See that? There cannot be any gap right there. That surface has to meet up with the other surface. There can't be any gap in between. Can I file the other side too? Yes. I think I might do that. I can file this whole area. I'm pretty sure the pop out will eliminate the file marks. I'm kind of taking a chance that the pop out will not eliminate the file marks. I think it will. But I'm going to file off that step fracture. All right, so do we have a match? I think it's close enough. Yeah. Okay, and then making the tool tip perfect also helps. Yeah. These sharp corners. Not too sharp, but you know, within reason. Why not too sharp? Because the tool edges they can be also delicate and that's just as bad as having a delicate edge on the stone. Okay. Here we go. Did I do anything? I don't know if I did anything. Let's see. I think I did a little bit. It keeps slipping. Can't be slipping at all. Okay. It did pop out something. All right. So we don't have a complete pop out here, and we have file marks on the other side. So what do? We quit? No. It wouldn't be good for the video. Let's see. I'm gonna put my tool on the face of that step fracture, see if I can pop it. That way we can call this side done. No, this side done, and then work to get rid of the file marks on the other side. Yes? Yes. I could try to just keep popping out flakes with pressure. I'm hitting the sides. Just because I don't want to take forever. Let's see. There, I got rid of the file marks on that side. Okay? Just by popping it out with pressure. All right. Deep in the other side, get it symmetrical, and we're done. How did they do this back in the day to make deep notches? Not all of them had deep notches, so they just got lucky one day. Some days were good with deep notches, some days were not. You don't see them all with very deep notches. That means not all the days were good. They had good days and bad days. And with natural tools, you don't really know what's going to happen. So some days it works well, sometimes it won't. All right. It's the same technique no matter what. How do I know it's the same technique? Same tools. You can vary the technique a little bit with the same tool material, but you know, sharpen your tools a little bit more. Maybe switch them out for something harder, like use bone instead of antler or antler instead of bone. You know, you can do those little minor changes, but it's pretty much the same. You can use a stone flake to push out defects. You can use a stone flake to actually file the bottom of the notch with a stone flake. Yeah. And that might have been done. Who knows? If we look really, really carefully at the artifacts, we might see evidence of grinding with stone flakes at the bottom of notches. I don't know. I haven't seen any, but doesn't mean they don't exist. They could have been doing the same thing with stone flakes at the bottom of the notches. Just keep grinding them. Takes forever, but it works. It will create a ground down bottom of the notch at the correct or at a good angle. It will work. It just takes forever. All right, so it's good enough. The symmetry is good enough. I'm going to move the point a little bit that way to line up with the center line of the stem. And then we'll be done. That'll be on the next segment. Okay? Notching completed.